This site is really fascinating. I'm standing in the Queen Victoria Market, which is Melbourne's iconic market. And what's really interesting about it is that and kind of sad about it actually, is that it's built on the site of an Aboriginal graveyard. And so it's a very, very special place for many Aboriginal people in Victoria and in Melbourne. But it's also the place where lots and lots of different cultures come to share food and to engage in the cash economy and to share their wares with a wide and diverse community. What's a real challenge about the Queen Victoria Market is how to redevelop it in a sensitive and respectful way. There are plans for redevelopment on the table at the moment. And one of the big questions about that is how to ensure that all of the people who call the market a special place, including the Aboriginal people who call this a special place because it's a graveyard site, can have a voice in that conversation and have their views respected. So I think of Melbourne and cities like Melbourne as a space of shared coexistence, which is a way of acknowledging that there are many different perspectives, a plurality of perspectives on what this place means, what it might be in the future, and who should get to say about what that might look like. These issues about coexistence are really important, but they're extremely challenging to make sense of and make them work in a kind of operational way within, say, a planning system. And part of the challenge with that is around the planning system itself acknowledging that there might be other planning systems that coexist in this space. So again, thinking about this place as a very special Aboriginal place, as well as a very special multicultural place, is thinking about the ways in which all of those systems need to speak into the same space and need to speak to each other and learn from each other about how we might move forward in a really respectful way. It's a big question, I think, about whether we can have an ethic that's shared. For me, one of the ways I think about that is that the shared ethic might be around respect. And that we do things that are respectful of other people's different perspectives, even when we don't really fully understand those perspectives, as we often don't, because people live in different kinds of cultural worlds. So the ethic of respect, I think, is something that we can share. But that's actually quite a general thing to say. So, and again, the challenge really remains in how we make that real, how it becomes part of our practice. Another big challenge when we're thinking about questions of respect and coexistence and shared ethic is recognising that not everyone comes to the table, if you want to think about it in those terms, on an equal footing. We're dealing with a society where there are profound structural inequities and disadvantages built into the system. So something like a question around distribution. How are resources distributed? Whose voice is more powerful because they bring more cultural, financial and social clout to the planning table is a very, very big challenge. So we can't pretend as if the playing field is level. The playing field is never level. And so what we have to do in planning and urban development settings where there is rich cultural diversity and we want to be respectful to that is to understand that structural disadvantage, that situation. Part of the challenge is not shying away from conflict and contestation in these spaces. It seems a little absurd to me that we might think that we can have conversations about our different perspectives on place and space and what cities mean without having some kind of conflict, without disagreeing with each other in quite profound and meaningful ways, and allowing that conflict to become part of the conversation, to work positively with conflict, not to pretend as if conflict is something that we should shy away from, I think is a really, really important challenge for us to put at the heart of our planning and development processes.